Hello, distinction students. Welcome to our English online class. This is your tutor, Miss Cynthia Muyunda. All right, so we are in the month of April, and the month of April begins with a direct and indirect speech topic. Right, so we are going to be learning how best we can use the reported, or rather the direct speech. All right, the direct or the indirect speech. So I'll begin by discussing the direct speech. All right, so when we use the direct speech, we are simply reporting the speech, okay, by repeating the actual words that the speaker used. All right, so there are certain circumstances where you want to report whatever was said using the exact words that were spoken by the speaker, right? So what do you use? Which speech do you use? We use the direct speech. So you say the exact words that were said by the speaker. All right, so now what are the rules? Normally, when you are using the direct speech, you will use the actual words that were used by the speaker. Those actual words ought to be placed in between speech marks, or rather inverted commas. So some people would call them inverted commas and some would call them speech marks. All right, but the point I'm trying to drive at is when you're reporting using the actual words that were said by the speaker, you place those actual words in between inverted commas or speech marks. Let's look at our two examples there. We have our first example that reads, Leah said, comma, it is cold today, full stop. Leah said, it is cold today, full stop. So what Leah said was, it was cold that day, right? And so I will not use my own words to report what Leah said because I'm dealing with a direct speech. What am I going to do? I will use the exact words that Leah said on that particular day, okay? And what am I going to do? The exact words, I'll make sure they are placed in between inverted commas. So Leah said, comma, it is cold today, right? So it is cold today. Those were the exact words that Leah said. And those exact words have been placed in between inverted commas. Then we have our second example. This one begins with whatever Musonda said, okay? The very words Musonda uttered. Then it reads, who was the last person to leave? So Musonda was asking who the last person was, okay, to leave. So who was the last person to leave? These are the exact words that were used to ask the question. So who asked the question? It was Musonda, and Musonda used these words. So the words that Musonda used to ask this question are placed in between inverted commas, okay? Not forgetting that this was a question, and so when it's a question, we normally add a question mark. All right, so who was the last person to leave, comma, asked Musonda. So those were the exact words that were used to ask the question. So we go direct to the rules, okay? So let's pay particular attention. I'm sure that some of us that write while playing these videos. So let's pay particular attention. We need to take note of certain things, or rather certain punctuation rules under the direct speech. All right. So if the speech tag comes before the direct speech, okay? If the speech tag comes before the direct speech, all right, we put a comma after the speech tag, okay? If the speech tag comes before the direct speech, all right, if the speech tag comes before the direct speech, what do? We put a comma after the speech tag, all right? Then what else do? We open with inverted commas before the first words of the direct speech, all right? before the first words of the direct speech, you open with inverted what? Commas. All right, before the first words of the what? Of the direct speech. Then we begin the direct speech with a capital letter. All right, we begin the direct speech with a capital letter. We do not begin it with a small letter. Then the other one, the last rule is that we close with inverted commas after the final punctuation mark of the what? Of the direct speech, of the very words that were said. So we close with inverted commas just after the final punctuation mark of the direct what? Speech. So we have examples here, all right? So Mumba said, there's a comma there, okay? So Mumba said is our what? Is our speech tag. All right, comma, it is hot today. So we have placed whatever Mumba said in what? In inverted commas. So we have opened whatever was said, okay, with the speech marks, or rather the inverted commas. So the word it is the one that begins whatever was said. It is hot today. It, okay? So we have said you begin whatever was said, okay? The first word that was said will begin with a what? With a capital letter. So the I there is in capital letter. So you begin the direct speech with a what? With a capital letter. So that is what, those are one of the rules. That is one of the rules. Then we will close with inverted commas after the final what? Punctuation mark of the direct speech. So we have those closing punctuation marks, okay, because we are now ending whatever was what was said by Mumba. Then our second example is Emmanuel asked, comma, where is my car? So the W there is beginning with a what? With a capital letter. So let me just quickly run you through the rules again. We put, so that is if the speech tag comes before the what? The direct speech. What do? You will put a comma after the speech tag, all right? Then you will open with inverted commas before the first words of the what? Of the direct speech. Then you will begin the direct speech with a capital what? Letter. Then the last thing that you will do is you will close with inverted commas after the final what? Punctuation mark of the direct speech. All right. So those are the punctuation rules under the direct speech. All right. Then what are some of the additional rules that we have? So if the speech tag comes after the direct speech, so we were talking about, so the first thing that we talked about was the speech tag coming before the direct speech, right? Now, if it comes after the direct speech, what do? We are going to open with inverted commas before the first word of the direct speech, all right? Then we will begin the direct speech with a capital letter still. Then we will close with inverted commas after the last punctuation mark of the direct speech. Then the last thing that we will do, we will add the speech tag beginning with a what? With a small letter and ending with a what? A full stop. So I'm sure we have noticed the differences that are there. All right. So in the first rule, we were beginning, the speech tag came before the direct speech. All right. And we said we put a comma after the speech tag, right? Then we open with inverted commas before the first words of the direct speech. Then we begin the direct speech with a capital letter, right? Then we close with inverted commas after the final punctuation mark. Then what happens if the speech tag comes after the direct speech? We will still open the inverted we will still open with inverted commas, all right, before the first word of the direct speech. Then we will begin the direct speech with a capital letter, and then we will close with inverted commas after the last what? Punctuation mark of the direct speech. Then the last thing that we'll do, we will add the speech tag, okay, beginning with a small letter and ending with a what? With a full stop. So we have examples here. Our direct speech is the one that is beginning the what? The sentence. So meaning that the speech tag has come after the what? The direct speech. Then we are now going to follow the rules. So we will still open our direct speech, okay, using the inverted commas followed by a punctuation, followed by a capital letter. All right, it is very hot today. Closing whatever was said with our inverted comma, okay, with our inverted commas, comma, said Mumba. So the speech tag will begin with a small letter, all right? The speech tag will begin with a small letter, all right? Then our second example there, we are still doing the same. We'll open with the first speech tag, then we'll begin with a capital letter. Where is my car? This is a question Emmanuel asked, right? So asked Emmanuel, we will still use the small letter, okay, to begin our speech tag, all right? The third one, someone help me, cried the drowning man. So we are still doing the same. You open your sentence with this first speech tag, all right? With the first inverted commas, okay, beginning with a capital letter, help me, all right? Someone help me, all right, cried the drowning man. So that is what we do under the direct speech, all right? So what you just need to notice, or rather take note of, what has started the sentence. Is it the speech tag or maybe the direct speech? Then you now apply the what? The rules, all right? Then what we need to take note is that if the direct speech is a question or an exclamation, we use a question mark or an exclamation mark, okay? As in what we have done in question 3. That was, our example 3. That was an exclamation. Sentence, okay? Somebody exclaimed, right? Then if it's a question, like in example 2, we add question marks. So we do not forget those, all right? So this is where we end. We have just discussed the rules, or rather the various things that you ought to do when you are reporting using the direct speech. All right, so you use the actual words. Those actual words are to be placed in between inverted commas. Then what happens? You need to make sure that you follow the rules. So if the speech tag comes before the direct speech, you already know to say we put a comma after the speech tag. Then we open with inverted commas before the first words of the direct speech. Then we begin the direct speech with a capital letter. Afterwards, we close with inverted commas after the final punctuation mark of the what? Of the direct speech. Then, if the speech tag comes after the direct speech, we will still open with the inverted commas before the first word of the what? Of the direct speech. Then we will begin the direct speech with a capital letter, and then we are going to close with the inverted commas after the last punctuation mark of the direct what? Speech. Then the last thing that we'll do, we will add the speech tag beginning with a small letter and end with a what? With a full stop. So those are the particular things that you need to take note of. So I urge you to practice, all right? If you have questions, you can quickly inbox me, all right? Or you can wait until we discuss this topic. All right, so this is your tutor, Miss Cynthia Muyunda. Please go through the video as many times as possible to help you understand better. And please do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you are notified once lessons or other videos are posted.